We're not going to pull any punches. We're just going to tell you what you want to hear right off the bat. This is the last weekend without any football for the rest of this calendar year. Now, of course, I'm including training camp, but it's football. They're going to be back on fields playing football. That's right. Most teams in the NFL, including your New Orleans Saints, open camp on Tuesday. So it's time for us to bring in the big guns. And it starts today with Mike Detillier, and Gabe is back. It'll be a Friday with lots of telling it the way it is. Hope you're ready. We'll find out next on Dattitude.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Y'all made it through that Cat 0.1 okay? You know, I was worried because the power did flicker once. We did get nearly an inch of rain here in Mandeville. But I'm glad those weather people scared the bejesus out of folks. Oh, my God, here it comes. Let the heavens open up. They love this crap, man. They really do. But I got, we love when Saints open training camp. So I guess to them, that's the weatherman, this Mother Nature opening her training camp for hurricane season, right? Y'all want to be scared some more? Well, let's talk about the Saints on Dattitude, episode number 391, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, July the 18th, 2025. I am your host, and if you're new to the show, don't know who I am, well, I'm Jim Derry. I'm 35 years on the New Orleans sports media scene. Thanks for being a part of this Dattitude family, especially if you're new. You know what is most special about our show, if you didn't know that already? You can be a part of today's episode and every episode by typing in your comments. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, that is. And if you're watching after the fact or listening on any of the major podcast platforms, you can get in touch with me via X at Jim Derry Jr. or email at jderry@theadvocate.com. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, what's going on? We've kind of lacked a little bit. We were doing so well. We went through like 2 months where it was like gangbusters, subscriptions out the wazoo. I know we went on break, but it's like the subscriptions they kind of slowed down a little bit. So tell your friends, tell your best friends especially, they need to subscribe to this page because we do lots of fun stuff here. And give us a like. I don't know. Algorithm. They say it helps. Whatever. What's on today's show? Well, you can see that. And Mr. Mike Detillier is coming up here about 11:20. We're going to be talking mostly about Saints. We are going to throw in some LSU as I get a little verklempt. I got my water bottle here this morning. Still sticking with the Cuban coffee at home. Man, that stuff is good. I've almost out of the first batch, so I'm gonna have to order some more coming up. We got another kind that we're gonna try too. I'll let you know how that goes. But Cuban coffee and pH water that UBN told me to try. We're doing good. We're feeling good. We're back from vacation and we're fired up. We're ready to go. Today's show, you can see it if you're watching us live. If you're listening after the fact, I'll tell you, it's only 4 days, as we said, till the start of camp, Tuesday, as it comes in. We are going to ask Mr. Detillier, can the offensive line be a major strength? Now, Gabe was giving me a little grief this morning before we started the show. And the title of today's show, at least on YouTube, is, can the 2025 Saints offensive line be among NFL's elite? Now, okay. Elite may be a little strong. I get it. I mean, what is your definition of elite? Okay, so there's 32 teams in the NFL. Where would the offensive line, now it's all conjecture, opinion anyway, but where would this offensive line unit, where would they have to rank to be among elite? Is it top 3 elite? Is it top 6 elite if you got 32 teams? I say it's like top 8. Okay. Now, right now, they're not there. I've seen, I don't remember I need to find what publication I saw them. They were ranked 8th. Okay. PFF doesn't have them nearly that high, but they're a lot higher than they were last year at this time when most were thinking they might be the worst in the NFL. I guess the point is the big turnover that this offensive line has. So that's to me, they've gone from the weakness of this offensive unit. I don't think going into last year, if you asked almost anyone, any knowledgeable fan, what was the weakness of this Saints offense? Well, I mean, the Carr haters are the ones who really, really, really hated Derek Carr would probably have said Derek Carr. But any normal, rational human being who watches this team on a regular basis would have said the offensive line. Now, I think going into this season, some people might say Alvin Kamara. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't really think that's where it is, but it could be. Some people who just love them some Taysom Hill, even though he's hurt and we don't even know when he's coming back, might say Taysom Hill. You might have a few stragglers out there that might say the wide receivers, but I think the vast majority of people who watch this team on a regular basis would say the offensive line is the strength of this offense. So the point is to go in just a year from majority saying the weakness on offense was the offensive line to the majority saying the strength is the offensive line. So maybe we're saying we're going a little too strong by saying that the offensive line can be among the NFL's elite, but I certainly don't think it's going out on a limb or going too far to say that it can be a major strength. So we're going to talk to Mike Detillier. That's kind of how we're going to lead off the segment. Of course, I'm going to ask him as I've asked, I've been starting off every Saints segment since we came back from vacay with the question about the helmets. So I'm going to ask, I know it's to some of you it might be getting old, but I just want to ask him what he thinks. And coming up on Tuesday, we're going to have I know y'all can't wait for this. A reveal on what the throwback unis are going to be. I'm saying, please, for the love of God, no gold. I'm hoping it's the Saints unis from like the Mora days with the white numbers, the black jerseys with the white numbers and maybe the white pants. That would be interesting. Maybe we'll go back to that. And then I'm going to have Mike make predictions on both the Saints and LSU because this is probably, it might not be the last time we have him on before the season starts, but in case it is, I'm going to get some early predictions from him. We'll see. We might have him on again before the season starts. So anyway, that's what's coming up on today's show. That storm, by the way, a little shoo. I make fun. I know the weather people are just doing their jobs. They're erring on the side of caution, and really, ever since Katrina, I get it. You think back to Katrina too. I mean, not to run off on a tangent, but if you think back, and that was 20 years ago this August. Okay, 20 years ago, my birthday is on Katrina Day. Okay, 20 years ago. When I was just a young pup, I wasn't that young even then. But, I mean, I remember I was covering St. Bernard prep high schools at the time, prep football. I was getting everything ready for prep football. And I remember the Friday before the storm hit on an early Monday morning. Sunday was, the last day. And Friday, we had the jamborees going on. And I tell you, we also had in the St. Bernard Bureau, we had a new bureau chief coming in. So we had a farewell / welcome luncheon for the outgoing St. Bernard bureau chief, Amy Ragsdale, and the incoming bureau chief, Manuel Torres. And so after the lunch was over, we're standing there watching the TV and like, what is this? I didn't even know that there was a storm anywhere around. So it goes to show you, maybe we underestimated Katrina. So I think ever since then, it's like everything gets overhyped now. So I understand why they do it, but sometimes, man, it's July. You knew the storm was going to be a shoo-shoo. I guess they were afraid it was going to dump 12 inches of rain on the city, but it didn't. Thank goodness. Although Destrehan, the river parishes did get lit up a little bit, and our thoughts and prayers go to them. All right, let's get to some of the comments before we get started with everything this morning. Nathan Thomas is first. Good morning, everybody. Who dat? You ready for Mike Detillier? He's coming on in 10 minutes. Charles Mangus is here, as he always is. Good morning. Dodge that small weather storm. Another $70 million a year man signed for the NBA. Gabe's waving his arm. Hold on. What are you waving your arms about?
What is Charles talking about?
I don't know. Is he talking about? I don't know.
I don't think that's real.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
Spider from Utah, is he referring to Donovan Mitchell? Donovan Mitchell plays for Cleveland. And he didn't just sign a new deal.
Well, you know what happens if it gets
and
put up.
No one signed the deal with Utah.
You know I'm going to click on it if it's up there.
Donovan Mitchell didn't just sign a new $70 million deal.
Well, he's going to respond. I'm glad you're back. We'll have you back in a minute. Who knows? I might have you back again before Mike comes on. That's why I got Gabe here. We're going to have fun. Entertainment. Bryan S. Steve is here. Good morning to Bryan and the Dattitude family. Happy Friday. That's right. It's Friday again. Dylan Smith. Good morning, Dattitude family. Brian Cabot is here. You're here on time. You're only here because of Mike Detillier. You're not here because of me. Mark Gapsky. Good morning. Who dat? Let's see what we got here. Earl's picks. Top 8 should be considered elite. There you go. I agree. Top 8 should be considered elite. That's what I'm thinking. Now, look, are they top 8 right now? I don't know. Maybe that's a little strong. We haven't seen them play. I think their potential is top 8, right? Charles says we'll see after half the season. He ranks them at 11 to 12. Can I see your rankings? I don't know. I'm going to get back to some more comments in just a minute. Some news around before I get to some news. I like to talk about my age and just gray beard and show you. Tomorrow's a momentous day. It is a reunion of the Geezers. My 40th high school reunion is tomorrow. I mean, I'm debating. Should I take pictures and show them here on the air on Monday? I just want to show, actually, how much better I look than most of the people my age. I mean, look, I know I got some grays over here, but man, not up there yet. Feeling pretty good for my age. Just saying. We're gonna hit that goal, that weight goal we talk about. I'm gonna shine tomorrow night. I might show some pictures on Monday. Remind me. Some other real news running NFL. Did y'all see Rashee Rice? 30-day suspension. I mean, not 30-day suspension. 30-day jail time's getting probation. What is the NFL going to do with him? He's going to get a suspension, I would think, of some sort. Crazy, man. So we'll see what happens with Rashee Rice. How will it affect Kansas City? And this is all minor stuff. And, Gabe, one thing we need to do, we need to put on the list. And I know we didn't get to a lot of the things that we put on the list to do this summer, but we need to have some kind of like fantasy minute or something. Fantasy football minute or two. We completely ignored it last year. We had Spencer on the year before that, and Spencer's doing some other things, so I didn't have time to do it. But how is that going to affect fantasy football for y'all? I don't know. How many games is he going to get? Is he going to miss half the season? Might. How's it going to affect the Chiefs? I don't know. We'll see. Gabe says NFL's going to hand down a multi-game suspension hinted at by Schefter and Rappaport. Not confirmed. Yeah, I mean, I think they got to, right? I think it's probably minimum 4 games. That's usually how they handle that sort of stuff. So Rashee Rice gets 4 games. How does it affect Kansas City? But how does it affect fantasy football as well? Speaking of fantasy football, nobody cares that he's on my team. But how about, did y'all see this? Because I didn't see this till this morning. But the Mike Williams retired at age 30 from the Chargers. Which is, he has been hit and miss. And that dude, when he was playing and he was healthy, he was as good as anybody. But the problem with Mike Williams is he wasn't always healthy. 10th on the chart. Did y'all know this? 10th on the Chargers all-time list. Now, granted, the Chargers list isn't as long as some teams, but I mean, you think about the Air Coryell teams and Dan Fouts as a quarterback and all the receivers that they had there. I mean, to be 10th on the Chargers all-time list, 4,806 yards. He's retiring at age 30. Just goes to show you. I mean, look, the lifespan of some of these offensive players, man, I think it's getting shorter and shorter. Players, wide receivers, and they still do. Some of them do, but it goes to show, to me, skill players, not a quarterback, but the receivers and the running backs, they get to 30, man, and that's pretty much That's why when I talk about Alvin Kamara, and I know we're comparing receiver and running back, but all the hits that Alvin Kamara takes, how much longer is he going to last? That may be something we talk about with Mike in a little bit. But anyway, Mike Williams retires at age 30. Last couple notes here before we get back to the comments, because Mike's going to be on in about 4 or 5 minutes. Damian Lillard back to the Portland Trailblazers. I was surprised to see that, but it just goes to show some people love where they are. Some people love where they've been, where they are, whatever. So it's Dame time back in Portland again. And the second half of the baseball season begins today. Will the Cubs make a run to the NL pennant? We shall find out. I saw that Derek Jeter predicted Cubs and Yankees in the World Series. I knew there was a reason I like Derek Jeter, because I don't like the Yankees, but how can you not like Derek Jeter? Right? Anyway. Before we get to the rest of the show, Mr. Detillier, and your comments, got a bunch of comments in the queue I want to get to. Let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, or someone you know, someone you love, someone you want to help, well, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Pointer Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. Just how good are they? Well, there was no fear from Nick and Ron through this storm. They worked right through it. They don't care about no Cat 0.1. They're getting that stuff done. They're helping their peeps. We'll tell you more about them later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, a couple more comments. Again, I expect Mike to be in the green room any minute now, and we'll get him on the show. Let's see. Brian Cabot says, here's the rub. Offense could be a top 10 to 12 squad, but the D is so bad they could finish with the aforementioned 6 wins. I don't know. I mean, why do we think the D is going to be that bad? I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're going to be that bad. I still think the defense is probably a tinge ahead of the offense. I'll ask Mike what he thinks. I think the defense, I'm not saying the defense is great, but I think, what are we predicting for rankings? You know, we always look at, and we bring it up most of the shows. When we're talking about doing previews, we show rankings. What are the rankings of the Saints offense and defense going to be? My guess is offense is going to be somewhere around 20th, 22nd, maybe lower. Defense could be middle of the pack, a little bit lower. We'll see. A couple more comments, and Charles says he did meet Donovan Mitchell. What else? Let's see. Good morning, Oscar Maurice Calix. Good morning. Ron Henderson, good morning. You are not related to Trey Hendrickson. Well, you might want to tell him to sign if you got his phone number. Hakeem, big dog, you here. Yes, Cubs and Red Sox today. Mark Gapsky, S. Cali, good morning. Who Dat Nation? David, +1#. Chiefs seem to find a way to survive these issues. Yes, they do, but at some point, they're not gonna. We'll find out. And Earl's Picks says Cubs need to sign another starting pitcher. I think they will. All right. Enough of all this mess. Let's bring in the expert. Let's bring in the man that y'all came to hear. Y'all didn't come to hear me today. I know, yeah. Y'all came to hear Mike Detillier. And he is here today on Dattitude, presented by Evangeline Securities. On this Friday morning, Michael, what's going on this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. Just finished my rehab, and so I'm ready to go.
How is that going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. It's 7 weeks today. I had knee replacement surgery and a little straightening out of my leg. I waited way too long to have the surgery done, but everything's going well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and glad you're back on your feet, because it's football season, and we just don't stop. We go to sleep, and I tell this to people all the time, Mike. We go to sleep. We wake up in late July, early August, and we don't get to go to bed again until like January.
Yeah, it's something like that. And The one thing I learned, I hadn't had surgery since I was probably 11 years old. I didn't realize Archie Manning's the one who told me, he said, your sleep's going to get interrupted. You're not going to find a good spot to fall asleep. He was right about that. So I fought that for a while. Every once in a while it hits me too. But yeah, so sometimes the sleep board doesn't even get involved.
Mike, if anybody knows about surgeries, it's Archie Manning. There's no
Yeah, he's had a bunch. He's had a bunch.
Said a few. Daryl, thank you for the comments. Great show. Charles is telling you hello, as is David. He's saying get well. All right. The first thing I'm going to ask you has nothing to do with anything important, but it's what I've been asking our guest here to start the Saints segment. And we're having a little fun with it. So I want to ask you, what do you think about these new helmets? I'm old school, Mike. I am not in love with these helmets. I think it's that stripe. I do love the old gold color, and I wish they would bring the old gold back. But overall, I'm not really a fan.
It's okay with me. Okay.
It's okay with you. Okay.
But I'm like you. I'd much rather the gold helmets.
You know,
the old gold.
The old gold. I wish they would go back to that old gold and not the khaki, like yellowy, whatever. And it's like sometimes it's greenish almost. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to get your opinion on that because I think it's the big giant stripe on there. I like the stripe, but it's too thick. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what uniform they're going to go back to. That's coming out on Tuesday. I would love to see them wear the Jim Mora black jerseys with the white numbers just for a game or two. That would be kind of cool, don't you think?
Yeah, that part. Don't go back to that gold jersey.
No, absolutely no gold jerseys.
No gold jersey.
I'm with you on that.
I like the black.
We'll find out on Tuesday about that. I know some people don't care about that, but I do. I care about superficial things like that. I just always have. All right. Mike, Mama always said if you don't have anything positive to say, then talk about the Saints offensive line. There you go. I mean, we kind of today, our theme is going to be we're looking for something positive. And if you're looking for something, you and I have been talking about building these trenches for a long time now. And finally, I think the Saints are in a position to where they've taken that next step. And maybe the word elite might be a little bit much, but I think this offensive line could be a strength of this team this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what those bookends can do and how this offensive line can take the next step and help this offense.
I agree with you, but I think it will take some time. I'm a big believer. Same thing I would say about LSU. The last piece of the puzzle to come together for any team is offensive line play. Because, yes, you have one entrenched starter in Cesar Ruiz at right guard, Eric McCoy at center. After that, you've kind of swung some different pieces together now. Now, I'm a big believer in this. I think by the end of the year, Taliese Fuaga is going to be one of the top right tackles in the NFC. I think he's got the skill set to be that good. What I'm unsure of is how the left side's going to look, because you have a new left guard in Trevor Penning, who's not played there before, and Kelvin Banks Jr., who is a rookie, and how he goes through the paces. When we spoke to Archie, had him at Manning camp, and he brought up the fact and asked Lil Arch the exact same thing, and he repeated it. He said off of last year's Texas team that Kelvin Banks was the best player on that team.
Wow,
but
that's saying something.
You got to have 5 guys working as one, and it's almost like a dance group. Okay, if somebody's out of step, you know it. It's obvious. So I think early on there are going to be some missteps here, but it's got a chance to be a really good unit by the end of the year if they can stay healthy. The other guy I'm interested in, because they put a lot of stock into trading up for him. He has been hurt back-to-back years, and that's Nick Saldiveri. Is he finally going to stay healthy and challenge Trevor Penning for the left guard spot. If that's the case, then you've got really something there up front along the offensive line. But the two tackles will tell you the whole story about this season, how quickly Kelvin Banks adjusts to the NFL. Fuaga, got no doubt, he is going to end up being a really, really good right tackle for this football team.
One thing, Mike, that this team has that they haven't had probably since Drew Brees was here was they have depth on the offensive line. They're not just better, but you talk about whether Penning will work out and maybe Sal DeVere will have a chance to challenge him or whatever. But you bring in a Dylan Radins who has 4 or 5 years experience with the Titans and has started plenty of games, and he's there to back up and ready to step in if Penning doesn't work out or if someone gets hurt and Penning needs to move elsewhere or whatever. And then, you talk about having Clapp in there to be a backup center, which you didn't really have a backup center last year. So one thing that I like even beyond the players and you spent first round picks 2 years in a row. I agree with you wholeheartedly about Fuaga. Rookie left tackles don't always work out, but I love the fact that this team has some depth and it's not just, oh my goodness, if you get an injury this year, you're hosed.
Well, it's not a Mount Everest drop off like you saw last year. Okay, I say this on the show all the time, and man, I get a bunch of comments of it. Coaches say it. Oh, okay, next man up. Well, the next man, he's not close to that other guy that you lose. Come on, it's not reality.
Right.
Okay? But it's great to say in the locker room. Some reporters do buy into it. My thing is, come on, that's a big drop off mostly when you lose your starting player and you put in a second string guy. There's that drop off. And you're going to have injuries up front along the offensive line. It's the most injured part of a college or professional team. So you need quality depth. I didn't think they thought that out very well last year when they were trying to piece this team together. Did not think it out well at all. And then once you got hit, and especially the McCoy injury, okay, that team went downhill and fast once he got hurt. So I agree with you. You do have better depth up front along the offensive line. And a key to this season is to try to keep them healthy for most of the season, in which can't say all the season. Now with 17 games, somebody's going to go down for a little while. And this is old school. The best way to protect your rookie quarterback, no matter how you look at it, is to have a running game and stop the run. And this team has not consistently done that over the last couple of years. Been able to run the football when they need to and have to. And they have dramatically dropped off in their inability to stop the run. So if we had Cam Jordan on couple of days ago, and I told him, hey, Cam, if I'm playing the Saints, one of the first things I do, I'm going to run the ball until you stop. He was like, well, yeah. He said, I agree. That's why we got to get better on all fronts. But I do think it's old school, but it does work. And I think it is the biggest help you can have for your young quarterback or quarterbacks, however you want to look at it.
Well, that leads into what I was going to talk about next. And then we're talking about in the trenches. And while they are better on the offensive line, I think it's almost the status quo on the defensive side. And they took a big step back last year, Mike. There's no doubt about it. And look, we hope Chase Young can turn into something. And, Granderson kind of had a so-so season. We don't know what's going on in the middle. Are they going to switch right away to the 3-4? How is that going to work out? There's so many questions for me, Mike, on this defensive front and in the trenches that I don't know that we're going to find the answers out until maybe it might be October before we start finding answers out.
Yeah, I think it'll be a hybrid 3-4 defense. I think you'll see bits and pieces of the 4-3 and the 3-4. It's not all of a sudden you're going to switch to that because you don't have the personnel to do it. I do like the addition of Davin Godchaux, who I think he gets underrated from a standpoint of people say, well, he's in there just to clog up the middle. no, if you watch Davin play, he's also a guy that makes the play against the run. Is he going to give you a great pass rush? No. But he can stop the run, and he can help you there. The former defensive line coach that was there before was never a fan of. You and I talked about this, Grantham. Man, again, he is who he is. I do know one thing. They're going to be better coached up front with Bo Davis. Man, yeah. I've been knowing Bo for a long time. I know he coaches well. He's old school. He knows how to push the right buttons and put people in the right position to make plays. Again, you are playing with a lot of the same sort of people you were with a year ago. And a big part of this team that sometimes gets overlooked is the last 2 years under Dennis Allen, they had an inability to take somebody's talent and raise it to another level.
Yep.
So can they do that with a Christian Boyd at defensive tackle? Can they take Bryan Bresee's skill set and raise it up to another level? Alontae Taylor, and he kind of tipped us off on draft day that I'm going to play outside, but on third down, they're going to kick me in the slot. He said they're going to do to me what the Rams did to Jalen Ramsey, and that they're going to move him inside. And so we had, the Saints defensive coordinator make the comment that, hey, listen, you got to match. I can't put that $6 million a year guy up against a $30 million a year guy. Because now most of those top receivers on third down, they in the slot. You got to match up. So can they take those young talents and get them to elevate their game? And I could say the same thing, like on offense, with a Saul DeVary, with a Trevor Penning, with a Fuaga. I don't know about Kendra Miller. That's another guy. So defensively, can you get those young talents and make them better players? I really thought, other than he wasn't kind of cut out to be a head coach, Dennis Allen's inability to elevate the talent level of his players, I thought was a major undoing for him.
Yeah, it was a giant, very visible flaw. And I just think, look, I don't know that all nice guys can just be successful. And I think that part of Dennis Allen's problem was he wanted to be Mr. Nice Guy, and he wanted to appease to people. And that was his way of trying to win the locker room, was trying to be Mr. Nice Guy. And it just doesn't work for certain people, for a lot of people these days, especially. And I just think that was the problem. And he lost the locker room and he never got him back. And so we'll see if I know there's a lot more excitement in that locker room right now. Not saying that Kellen Moore is a hard ass, but I think there's a lot more excitement right now.
I agree. And he's a lot tougher guy than I think what sometimes people might think. Being a former quarterback. Yeah. You have been through those difficult situations.
You've been knocked on your ass many times.
And all eyes are on you. Okay. Yeah. They're not on somebody else. You got to understand, when you're the head coach, the buck stops with you. Okay. It's not on somebody else. It's with you at that stage. Right. And I think always, for me, it looked as though Dennis almost sort of looked around. Is it really on me? Is it really on me to be the last call here? Right. It's really on you.
I agree. Before I want to talk about the skill position players, but you brought up a name that I think the name that I'm most interested in on the defensive side of the football this year, because A, I don't know where he fits in this defense, but B, I love the step that he took last year, and I think he could be a big-time player in this league if they find the right spot for him, and that's Bryan Bresee. Mike, where does he fit in with this defense in this new scheme, and do you think he takes another step from the one he took last year?
He's a unique athlete for a big man, because what jumps out at you is his athletic skills, his ability to get off the line of scrimmage quickly. He has gotten much better using his arms and hands to get off blockers. And he's a good pass rusher. I think in a 3-4 scheme where he's a little bit more to the edge helps him, because a lot of times when you're built the way he is, he's a lot of upper body.
Yeah.
When you get off the snap, that guard or center can get under your pads and move you around a little bit. You give him a big target. At the end position, you want him to get off high and get around that end. So I think having a little adjustment and playing a little bit more on the end is going to help him. He is a driven athlete and he's unique. Can you compare him to any defensive lineman this team has had in the last 10 years?
Does he remind you maybe a little bit of Vaughn Johnson? He's not his body below the chest is not quite a, Vaughn was, drove with his legs and was so big. I think he could be like that.
He's a unique big man to always be in the middle, because I think he's always going to have that flaw. I told this to Mason Smith when he was at LSU. Man, you're coming off the line too high. I'm just telling you, because he's all upper body.
Right.
They get under you and they move you around.
Right.
And so he didn't believe that till Pete Jenkins came to LSU, and Pete said, "Man, stay your butt lower, learn how to play lower." So he was like, "Man, y'all been talking to one another." I was like, "No, Mason, I'm not talking to Pete. I'm just telling you, I've done this for a long time." And so with Bryan, I think getting better with his technique, maybe getting a little bit lower. Pete had worked with Eric Armstead. And if you remember, Eric, he's 6'7.5".
Yep.
And he came up with this crab stance where if you watch him, he's almost like a crab. He's so low. And so he eliminates that guy getting under him. Okay.
And you got to be strong enough to lift him up.
But he almost can forklift him.
Yeah.
That's how strong he is. So with Bryan, I think he's got a chance to be a guy that could push the 8 to 9 sack mark.
Right.
I think he's that talented. And he's also a guy, his chase down skills are really good for a big man. He can run side to side. There aren't a lot of guys that can do that. So I'm interested to see, in working with Bo Davis, how they develop his overall game. But I think you'll see him a little off center a little bit, trying to get him a little bit wider where he can get a better or a quicker push off to get into the backfield. I think it benefits him quite a bit.
Well, also, Mike, the Saints re-signed the 2 interior guys they have anyway, so it's going to kind of force them, I think, to do that, even if they didn't want to, which I think they want to. But even if they didn't want to, I think it's going to kind of force them to get Bresee on the outside, a little bit, because you got this. You're spending the money on the inside, guys. You got to use them.
Yeah, no question about it. But, the intrigue for me is how they're going to use Granderson and Chase Young.
Yes.
Because in the little bit of the OTAs, we saw them, they were lined up, hand in the dirt, sometimes stand up. It's kind of part and parcel of how they'll be able to use them as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And dropping back a little bit more in coverage. Cam, when he was on with us a couple of days ago, made the comment, we had used a little bit of that in the past, but gotten away from it. But he said, I think you'll see us used in short coverage more than maybe we have had in the last few years.
All right, I want to talk about the skill players here, and you brought up Kendra Miller, but I mean, we don't need to spend a lot of time on Alvin Kamara. We know who he is, and even though he's going to be 30 years old, look, I think his career is much closer to the end than the beginning. Obviously, how many years he has left, I don't know. How many years in New Orleans, I don't think we know the answer, but we know that this year he's going to play a large role in this offense and help whoever the quarterbacks be. I mean, you and I both think it's going to be Shuck, but we'll get to that in a minute. But who is going to step up, Mike? Who's going to be that next running back to we know Kendra Miller is going to get a chance. Is the 6th rounder Devin Neal going to play? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is in there. You got another guy you're bringing in who's got 2 coming off of 2 ACL injuries. I mean, who is going to be the guy that's going to step up behind Alvin Kamara?
I really think when it's all said and done, it's Devin Neal, the draft choice from Kansas, he's kind of a shortcut, squatty back, not super fast, but man, he's an eye vision runner who knows how to follow his blocks really well. Kendra Miller's got the skill set.
Yeah.
I just don't know, can he stay healthy? And does he have the drive to be that guy? I know last year at training camp, Deuce was always on this. Hey, it's up to you. Stop blaming the coach. This is up to you that you're not in the best of shape.
Right.
And that you always hurt. And I think he sort of tried to blame it on everybody else but himself. Now, come on, you 3 years into the league, there is a physical and mental maturity part of playing in the NFL. This isn't high school or college. And you're no longer on scholarship. Okay? For Kellen Moore, he could care less that you were a 3rd-round pick. Okay? He's somebody else's 3rd-round pick.
Exactly.
So my deal is
the same with Rattler.
I would love to see Kendra Miller step up his game. I don't know that can he do that. I do know one thing with Devin Neal. If I'm an opposing team playing Kansas, all my efforts are to stop him.
Right.
And look at the numbers he put up.
Yep.
Okay. Again, he's not playing with the 5 blocks of granite up front blocking for him either.
Not at Kansas, yeah.
And, man, he made it work. And he was
really
determined. And I think he's got a really good shot. Akers is an interesting guy because I think we all think back. And
that's the guy that I'm going to be looking at, Mike. I really think, and I know he's had his chance or whatever, but that's the guy that I'm going to be looking at.
I remember we had Marcus Dupree on, and he was like, other than me, I think probably the most highly recruited athlete I ever saw come out of Mississippi was Cam Akers. And Les Miles thought he had him. He really did. And at the last minute, Florida State came, and he went there instead. And he's had good moments, and then he's had disappointing moments. He's not the biggest guy,
right,
but he's really quick. Again, he's another eye vision runner, catches the ball well coming out the backfield. I'm interested in how healthy he is because he has had some Achilles injuries. That's always a little bit concerning for me.
Yeah, I said ACL and Achilles.
When you have those sort of lower body injuries, how quickly you can come back from that. And this would seem to be an offense tailor-made for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And what you're looking at as a runner and a receiver. And I remember talking to Joe Burrow about it. I said, what's the greatest trait with Clyde? He said, 1, he's tough. 2, he knows how to pass protect. For a quarterback, and you saying that about your back, that, man, he knows how to pass protect. That's a big part of it. So the running back position is interesting this year. Really, really is. But, man, just based off of a little bit about what you know about Miller, Neal, you hoping maybe Akers can be that guy again. And you could say the same thing about Clyde. But in the end, you know what? That young back, they're going to have a job beating him out.
No, and they're all going to get a chance. You know that. So, I mean, they're all going to get a chance. David wants to know, Mike, is Joel Thomas going to have a big impact with the running backs with Moore as head coach?
I think that he's always been known to be a guy that has a good relationship with his backs. And I know one of the things Coach Payton talked about a lot that Joel Thomas would talk to him a lot about. He's prepared for these plays this week. And I think that's important, your assistant coaches, to have that impact and that voice in the room late in the week that he's really good at this play, coach. Let's run this. And I think it always kind of sits in the back of a head coach's mind. So I would answer the question, yes.
It'd be interesting to see. And then the wide receivers, before we talk about the quarterbacks, I want to ask you your thoughts on the wide receivers. And obviously, Chris Olave, man, just every time I see him, like, just don't stay away from that concussion, because it only takes one more big hit. He could be, so I always worry about that. You got Shaheed coming back off of an injury, and you got really the rest of the room, you get Brandon Cooks, and so you get a veteran in there, but I'm just worried about the depth at this position. It used to be a strength, and now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I couldn't say it better about Olave. He's a talented player and a good football player, but you are worried about the concussion issues with him. I think the breakout guy is Rashid Shaheed. I think if he stays healthy, he gives you an element. And, when you break down film and you watch how guys are bailing out in coverage when he takes off running deep downfield. And I mean a deep bailout, because they know there aren't a lot of guys with his type speed headed down the chalk. I mean, man, he can just run like hell. And so he opens up a lot of things underneath. And we've talked about this about LSU with Chris Hilton. They were a different offense when Hilton was on the field late last year. It opened up things over the middle for Nussmeier that he didn't have because of the injury. And then, man, when Hilton played early, man, he caught the air, so to speak, of Brian Kelly for not running routes right, missed time.
Yeah, he got a little doghouse.
But late in the year, you saw the impact of his speed. Rashid's the same way. I say this on WWL all the time. Speed never had a bad day in its life. Never had a bad day. And
that's the truth.
That type speed, you can scare people pretty good. Even if the ball's not getting thrown to you, you affect the safety not coming in the box, because he's got to play deep now. He's got to respect you. Then when you lost both of them, it was like, okay, who you got playing receiver? I'm not scared of the one of those guys, any of them.
Valdez Scantling, yeah.
And so I want to see how much football gas Brandon Cooks has in the tank. And I do a show with him fairly often, but my old friend Greg Cosell from NFL.
Yep.
He is a big proponent of Bub Means. He thinks that element with Bub is going to really hit big this year for the Saints.
Hold on, Mike. That's a question for Brian. He wants to know, can Bub Means stay on the field? And if so, is he your big slot guy?
I would put Rashid in the slot.
Yeah.
And then I would say, okay, your third corner, I'm going to mess with you and then let Bub go to the outside. But it's funny, and I didn't even really ask him the question, but it was Cosell who made the comment. I think Bub Means is looking to have a big year for the Saints.
Okay.
Yeah, he likes the skill set of Bub Means, the way he runs routes. And he said, I think he'll be a much better player in year 2 for the Saints. So I know from Greg's point of view, he's the guy that he thinks could break out here for this football team. And he is a bigger receiver than, say, an Olave is, just the way he's built, or a Rashid Shaheed, or even certainly Brandon Cooks.
Well, that's someone that certainly benefits from, if there's a lack of depth at receiver, it's Bub Means, because he's going to get a big chance to be on the field. He got a big chance the last third of last year, I guess. He and Spencer Rattler kind of formed a bond, both 5th-round draft picks. But he is definitely going to get a chance to play with no matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And because, you practice with Spencer so much, because they were both, backup guys. at that stage of the game. So you got a kind of a little bit of a rapport with him. You sort of know, and he sort of knows where your cuts and breaks are a little bit better than maybe the guy that you haven't really practiced much with.
Jim Derry here with WWL's Mike Detillier here on this Friday morning Dattitude podcast presented by Evangeline Securities. Just let everybody know, in case they don't know and they live under a rock, Mike, when your show is Monday through Friday. I know you're also on some Saturdays, but tell them, everybody, when you're on.
Yeah, it's getting to be where those days off are none. So, yeah, we're on from Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. Starting in late August, we'll be doing our Tiger tailgating show a couple hours before LSU pregame, and then we have 4 hours of pregame leading up to the Saints game.
Man, I do want to ask you one or two questions about LSU, but one last question on the Saints. Well, actually, I'm going to throw this slide up there real quick. I got some Saints division, the NFC South odds real quick. But you like what you've seen from Kellen Moore so far. You kind of touched on it. You got to be happy about, look, a change was absolutely needed. And at least this organization is realizing they got to drive this car in a different direction.
I like what I've seen from him. I like the staff he's pieced together. I knew this would not be a one-year fix. This is
correct.
This is going to be years, plural, for him to piece together this team. But, for a first-year coach, I think he's handled it very well. He understands what he's got in front of him. And, with either rookie or a first-year quarterback, rebuilt offensive line, still pieces of the puzzle all the way around. If you get 5-6 wins out of this team, I would be more than pleased with that, because I think that's what you're looking at. That's what you're really looking at.
No, I think there's no question that if you get 5 or 6 wins out of this team, that you're taking that next step. As long as you feel, and I'll say anybody watching the show, any Saints fan, really, anybody following this team, whether it be media, fan, or whatever, I think as long as you feel better about this team in week 18 than you feel about them in week 1, as long as they continue to improve, then it's a success. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things what their final record is.
Yeah, because I think people look at what happened with Washington a year ago or with the Texans 2 years ago, but you don't have C.J. Stroud and you didn't have Jaden Daniels. Okay, they were a big part of why those teams went from here to here.
That's exactly right.
You don't have that type player at quarterback, and it's an anomaly in the NFL. It's rare that you have a young quarterback to come play like he's a seasoned vet, and that's what Stroud did. That's exactly what Jaden Daniels did. Now, if you watch Drake May last year, he was lousy early in the year. He was bad. By the end of the year, that Drake May looked pretty doggone good at quarterback. Caleb Williams never really changed. He looked as confused last year early as he did late. And a lot of it is he drew pressure on himself, moving around the pocket, and he'd walk himself right into a pass rush. That's where I think Ben Johnson will help him in Chicago. And I think it'll help Tyler Shuck having a guy like Kellen Moore and Nussmeier, guys that have been through those type situations, to explain it to him. Sometimes the best pass, Drew Brees would always say it, best pass sometimes is an incompletion. Now, like he said, it was tough for me to throw that incomplete.
Yeah, with a 70% completion rate.
But he said, I understood there were plays that were not there. Just throw it away. But he said it's the toughest thing for any young quarterback to go through. Nothing's there. Well, let me buy a little time. Guess what happens? You get sacked.
It's got to be Shuck, right? You and I have talked about this multiple times. And look, I'm not trying to dismiss Spencer Rattler, and I think the only chance he has really to start is if Kellen Moore decides that this team might have a rough first 4 games because of the schedule and doesn't want to throw Shuck to the wolves. But I just think that if you draft your guy with the 40th pick of the draft as opposed to someone else's guy that was picked in the 5th round and went 0-6, I think it's a no-brainer. Unless Spencer Rattler just blows Taliese completely out of the water, I think it's got to be Shuck, right?
That's why I always thought when you pick him that high, you give him the baton, you let him go through the good and the bad, and there's going to be a little bit of both with him, and you sort of live with it. And just hope that he gets better each game. I think that's the key.
Right.
Peyton Manning would have this comment about, he had a difficult rookie year, in Indianapolis.
Yes, he did.
And one of the last things he tells all the counselors at Manning Passing Academy, because we got 45 to 50 of them there. He was like, I'm always there for you. You got my number. If you need me for anything, give me a call. If I can help you, I certainly would. But you got to do one thing for me. One of you guys got to break my rookie pass interception, record. And that still sticks with him after all these years, all the accomplishments. That still sticks in his mind. But I think that through the adversity and the learning process, you get better. And I think having your head coach and Coach Nussmeier there who have been through that, I think eases the process. That's why I still would like to see this team go out and get a veteran quarterback.
Yep, so would
Get
I.
a guy. He understands his role is not to push the starter. He's there to help mentor him. People say, well, Kellen Moore's there for that. He's there to be the head coach.
Yep.
He got a lot of stuff to deal with every day. When you're talking about a 53-man roster and, you got a practice squad, everything else, man, you got a lot of stuff going here. Go out and get your veteran quarterback, and that has been through all that.
I wish they could start talk of Teddy B.
I agree. Teddy Bridgewater.
I wish they could talk him into it. And I know he's got other things on his mind. He's got all that stuff going on with that high school team or whatever. But I think he would be just absolutely perfect to come in here. Especially, you're talking about Louisville, right? They would both know what's. I just think he would be perfect to bring in here.
Yeah, what happened with Teddy is a shameful indictment of our world today.
Don't get me started on that whole.
This is a guy
ridiculous.
Trying to help young people.
So ridiculous.
He gets penalized for it.
It's ridiculous.
It's
like he said too. If what he did was a crime, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, but Teddy Bridgewater's been coaching a high school team, and they self-reported. He did not get suspended. He's not a staff. You can't you can't suspend them technically. But so anyway, he was helping out, getting Uber rides for some kids, helping them get home and to practice, which is a lot of coaches do. Some coaches I know have kids living in their homes, for Christ's sake. It's just ridiculous.
Helping feed them.
Yeah, help them feed them. Some of them don't have real meals, and he's trying to help feed them. It's absurd.
It's the most asinine thing, but we've gotten to that point in this world where some of the stupidity is we just sort of let that pass. And some of the things that make common sense, we're going to penalize people for. I don't get it. But again, that's the story for another day.
But he would be perfect.
I think he would be a perfect fit here, understanding he's not coming in here to take anybody's job. He's there for his insurance policy, just in case something would happen. But 100%. He could help out. And because he can see things that the young quarterbacks haven't had enough experience to see, and relay that to the quarterbacks. If it's the Rattler, if it's the Shuck. And sometimes guys of a certain age that they're not that far apart, they can relate to you better than somebody who's a little bit older.
Yep, for sure. And I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think they're going to do it at this point, but I would like to see it. And whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or someone else like a Ryan Tannehill or whoever it is, I think would make a world of difference for these guys that they did it. Okay, before I ask you one or two questions on LSU, just your thoughts. I mean, I hope to have you on again before the season starts again, but I may or may not. Just as we go into training camp, you see the NFC South odds on the screen, and if you're listening after the fact, it's basically Bucks even money. They are the favorite to win this division. Falcons plus 240, which means they're 2.4 to 1. Panthers plus 370, 3.7 to 1. And then the Saints are 14 to 1 to win the division. Just your overall thoughts on, is anyone going to challenge these Buccaneers?
I would have the 2 and 3 teams swapped. I still think because Baker Mayfield is who he is, they returning back that bulk of talent at wide receiver and tight end, and bring in Abuka, and then you got Bucky Irving at running back. You had all 5 starting offensive linemen back. Then Wirf's injury never got better with the knee, so he's going to miss the first couple weeks. But I still think the Bucs are the cut in the NFC South because of Baker, to be honest. And if I'd have said that 2 years ago, you'd have put me away. But his stability and the fact he's thrown more touchdown passes than any other quarterback in the NFL over the last 2 years is amazing. For what
Baker Mayfield has?
Baker Mayfield
I didn't even realize that.
More touchdown passes than any quarterback in the NFL over the last 2 years.
Wow, I did not. It does help when you got a Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, but still, that's pretty
then you
amazing.
add Abuka. Of all things, you add him to the mix, and Chris Irving's man. He is a really good running back, really, really is. And so, to me, they clear cut number 1. I think the Panthers are the second.
Bryce
best
Young keeps the going improving like he was improving. I agree with you because I think the Panthers have a pretty good defense. If Bryce Young can continue to go forward like he was, I agree with you.
Atlanta, I don't trust them at all.
With Dennis Allen Light as coach?
In a lot of ways. And my thing is, what happens if things go bad early for them?
Yeah.
Do they become the Saints of 2024?
Could be. Yeah, because I don't think their owner, I think Arthur Blank's getting tired of this, and I don't think he's going to have a lot of patience. So I think that he's not going to wait as long as he's waited in the past to make a change of coach. And I think Raheem Morris could certainly be on the chopping block there. It'll be interesting to see because I do think if they start slow.
Defensively, does anybody there in that front 7 really put the fear in you?
Nope.
That, man, we got to have that guy blocked.
Would you?
They got solid players, but it's not like they loaded down. Up front,
is it worth putting $1?
Front 7.
Is it worth putting $1 on the Saints? Is it worth putting $1 on the Saints at 14 to 1? If you play the season out 14 times, did they win in division 1 time?
It reminds that actually went to Vegas and he won a little bit of money. He actually put $100 down on the Saints, and so I told him, "You could have given me the other $99. It's not going to really." But he did bet the over on the amount of wins, so he might win a few bucks on that.
I don't know. I like the under actually. 5.5 is the over under right now. And again, with that brutal schedule, if I didn't think they were going to go 0-4, because I do think they're going to go 0-4. If I didn't think they were going to go 0-4, I'd say maybe, but that's just a little tough. All right, before I let you go, you had me on the other day and we talked about SEC media days and LSU. Right now, LSU is 4th among SEC odds. You got Texas at plus 260. You got Georgia at plus 340. You got Bama at plus 390. So the odds makers thinks it's going to be one of those 3 teams, Texas, Georgia, or Bama. I love LSU lurking in the weeds at plus 800 to win the SEC. Mike, A&M after them. Ole Miss tied at plus 1,500. But LSU at plus 800, 8-1 to win the SEC. Man, if Garrett Nussmeier has the season, I think you and I both think he's going to have, this team, that's a bargain at plus 800.
I agree with you. I think LSU's a double-digit winning season. I got to see it to believe it. They win game 1.
Yeah, Clemson is a tough one.
I think Clemson, dark horse team to win at least to get to the national championship game for what they have at quarterback. And their defense is really good, really good. But I still think LSU figures out a way to get 10 wins this season. And I think part of the problems I have early with them is I don't know how good they are up front along their offensive line. And to be honest with you, how much better are they against mobile running quarterbacks?
Yeah,
which have given them fits the last couple of years.
And South Carolina's on the schedule again. And, just the entire SEC, I think, presents so many problems to them. And look, I don't care, though. I mean, I'm trying not to be – I really am excited about this season. I mean, again, if they can get past Clemson, and I know we've been saying that for years because they've lost 4 in a row to start the season, but if they start 1-0 this year, I think it makes a whole world of difference. I really think – and we see they're plus 125 to make the playoffs. They're not going to be plus 125. They're going to be like minus 150 if they win that first game against Clemson.
I think LSU, if they could get past game 1, man, they may be on a special roll. But that's a huge game, and you're away from home playing against a starter who is a really good starter and could be a star quarterback in college football this year. And you got 2 defensive linemen for Clemson that could end up being a first-round pick, and you're unsure about your offensive line.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. We had 4 different people come on who, pick games for a living. All 4 have picked LSU to win. Not a one has picked Clemson.
That's crazy.
Man, that scares me even more because I hate to hear consensus. Man, that's the worst thing for me is to hear consensus across the board. I think it's just such an intriguing game to start the season with, similar to Tennessee going to Ohio to play the Buckeyes. Now, I'd much rather play Ohio State this year than last year, but still I know how tough that game's going to be for Texas. How crazy would it be to start the season and Texas and LSU both have losses?
That would be crazy. I mean, it really would be. And look, one more question, last question here, just your overall thoughts. I hear what you say about the SEC. If you had to pick one, who you like in the SEC?
Texas.
Okay.
I think the one thing with Sark he's done, and I've talked to enough people that have worked with him or coached against him, they think he's got the most fertile offensive mind in college football. And he comes up with game plans that are just fabulous. But the one thing he's done better than any other coach I've seen in quite some time at Texas, he has been able to recruit the trenches, offensive and defensive linemen, like very few have. They stayed away from those guys for a while. Now they got some big men that can move. And I think this is the year that Texas makes that run for it, for the national championship. And they were close last year. I think this year they get over the hump. But it wouldn't surprise me. Texas, Clemson play for the national championship.
Really? You got Clemson out there? Really?
I think they're that good.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's Charles is saying Clemson is tough, but they're getting too much credit. So Charles is not agree. I don't know enough. I'm never going to disagree with Mike Detillier, especially when it comes to college football. If he says it, it's stamped in my book. That's how I do it. Mike, I would love to have you on before that LSU Clemson game. That hopefully we can talk before then, because to me, that is going to set the tone for the college football series. The season. I really think the winner of that game is going to go on a nice little run. I really do.
And I do know what, even if Clemson loses, look at their schedule afterwards.
Yeah. Yes.
They can run that pretty good.
It's a little different in the ACC.
They can run that schedule pretty good.
Well, Mike D, thank you so much. And everybody, give him a listen Monday through Friday. It's 4 to 6, right? 4 to 6 on WWL.
4 to 6.
We will
Correct.
catch you on the airwaves and hope to have you back here on Dat within the next month and a half. We'll see you soon, Mike. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jimmy.
Mike Detillier, the great Mike Detillier. He is, to me, when you're talking about voices of New Orleans, and at least in my lifetime, there are certain people you listen to. Certain people you listen to for entertainment purposes, certain people you listen to for informational purposes. And there's no question that when you're talking about sports in and around Southeast Louisiana, whether it be Baton Rouge, whether it be New Orleans, I don't care. Mike Detillier, there may be, he and Jeff Duncan are the two big informational voices. And what do you know? This is how we're kicking it off here, getting ready for camp. We got Mike Detillier today. We got Jeff Duncan coming up on Monday. So it is exciting about where we are. And look, if Mike says he likes Clemson, Gabe, before we have you on, can you go look up Clemson's odds just to make the playoffs? I got to think they're lower than LSU, but still, that might be worth a couple bucks. That might be worth a couple bucks. All right. Speaking of that, Gabe is going to come on in about 3 to 4 minutes. And he's going to find that out for us. But I want to remind you, everybody, the next show is Monday, July 21st. We still got 20 minutes or so here today. We're going to talk about some more about the Saints. Gabe is going to come on. I'm not 100%. I know one thing we're going to talk about. There's a big event coming up here in New Orleans. Just saying, a huge event that we don't ever talk about. We don't ever talk about this sport coming up here in New Orleans. We are going to talk about it. I know Gabe wants to bring that up and whatever else he wants to talk about this morning. He'll be coming on. But I want to remind you, if you haven't already done so, to subscribe to the Dattitude podcast on our YouTube page and give us a like. Help out the algorithm. Help us out here. That next show is going to be Monday. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time from now until I fall asleep again in January, most likely. Well, we might take a day off here or two. But not many. That's where we are this time. I mean, we're pretty much running through. Before we get to Gabe, we want to remind you, we told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, we're so glad you asked. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline, well, they'll begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world, and they will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, none that work through Category 0.1 storms, and none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you, so get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It's not about who's going to win the SEC. It's not about who's going to win the ACC. And it's not about college football odds. What's really important is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. It's Friday. He's back. It's Gabe Henderson. And what you got for me first, though?
Clemson is minus 200 to make the playoff.
Well, that's kind of high to make the playoff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can call that a bargain.
It's not.
Again, if Mike says it, I mean, S. Callie says Mike's the GOAT. Oscar said Mike knows his football. All right. I'm going to start with this comment here. David says Dana White did Dustin Poirier wrong by putting together a very soft pay-per-view card. Should have put Derek Lewis from last weekend on the card. He's a New Orleans native. I know.
Derek Lewis was right to get his main event against Teixeira last week. Teixeira, despite losing to Derek Lewis, he's an absolute monster.
Okay. Lance Dobard, I'm sorry I didn't say hello early. I wanted to save your comment from when I could actually give you a shout out and not just throw it on the screen. And he says he doesn't care what you say, Gabe Henderson. He's putting $40 on them Saints.
Go ahead and just donate it to a good cause.
You are so mean. It's Friday. You are feisty on this Friday morning. What you got going on? Talk a little bit about. We have not talked enough about Dana White and what's going on and the big event coming to New Orleans?
Yeah, so UFC 318, one of the reasons it was on my mind, I just sent in my predictions for UFC 318 over at sportsbookreview.com. Those will go live.
That's sportsbookreview.com, boys and girls.
It is. We've got a ton of picks coming out over the next couple of days for UFC 318 tomorrow night. It's actually a bittersweet event. The UFC returns to New Orleans, and it's Dustin Diamond Poirier's last fight of his UFC career.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
He'll take on Max Holloway, who, for those who don't know, and the reason it's a storybook, Max Holloway's first UFC fight in 2012 was against Dustin Poirier. So this is the fight. Poirier's won both prior meetings, and he'll look to go out, although I don't see it.
I'm just glad to see old dudes can still do it, especially on my, he's not as old as me, but on my 40th reunion weekend, old geezer weekend, the old geezer can still do it here in 2025. What else you got for me? What do you think about that Clemson thing, by the way? Clemson pick, by the way.
I love the Clemson pick. Clemson's
one. I know you already told me that.
A little transparency going into the summer. Well, as soon as college football odds released, I ran to the books and I placed 4 bets.
Okay.
2 of them were futures on win totals. 2 of them were Heisman futures. The first bet I placed was Clemson for 9.5 wins. I think they're going to clear that easily.
Yeah.
The second bet was LSU over 9.5 wins. I think they're going to clear that. I
agree with both of those, but I like Clemson. I mean, I'm not. The Clemson schedule is much easier than LSU's. I mean, it's the ACC. So I is it still 9.5? Because I might go put some money on that too.
I'm not sure. I know it was
probably
juiced at the time.
I was gonna say it's probably over juiced. By the way, Earl's pick says he's telling Lance to just put 40 on the Texans not to make the playoffs to hedge his bet.
I mean, if you don't believe their offensive line issues are going to get better, there's probably some good value in that.
I think they're just having a little fun with you.
They can have some fun. I'm about making people money. So,
by the way, I haven't talked to you about this, but we are going to begin our. If you didn't hear me say this before, I haven't talked about it in the last day, couple shows. But we're going to do our NFL previews this year via the short. So I'm going to keep them in 3-minute formats. They're going to run them as shorts. It's going to be just me this year, but. What I would like to do is get your thoughts on my picks after I do them. So maybe we'll do that. We'll run through and we'll get your thoughts. So that's going to begin. I haven't looked for the exact date, but I want to say somewhere around August 1st they're going to begin. So we got about another 2 weeks before we start them. What else you got for me on this Friday morning?
Well, I'm currently trying to look through the win totals for college and see if Clemson's still a 9.5 for you. Let me just say this: if anyone at DraftKings is watching, consider this my plea to you. Please start listing your win totals in alphabetical order like everyone else.
Yeah, no,
I mean there's no rhyme or reason to where these teams are. Clemson is below Michigan, sandwiched in between Michigan and Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, finally,
what are we doing here?
They've started to fix that. They haven't fixed it there, and I think it also depends on what site you go to, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. That's why I said DraftKings. DraftKings doesn't always do it. But to answer your question from earlier, Clemson's win total is still 9.5. The over is juiced to -170.
Oh,
so I would still bet that. I would still bet that, honestly.
That's a lot.
As opposed to betting them to make the
-140
at -200.
What'd you get it at? -140?
I don't remember where. If you want me to sit here and look, I can.
No, you don't have to. I was just curious.
Probably -140, something like that.
All right, before we let you go this morning, I want to. You and I are going to talk more about this, and I know because college is you're like super into college. You're more into college than I am. And so, I've never really picked your brain on this real quick, but the SEC odds, first time I've really looked at them, I was surprised when I looked them up that there was that big of a gap between, you got Texas, Georgia, and Bama. Okay, they're the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any problem with LSU being 4th, but I was kind of surprised at the big gap between Bama and LSU and the fact that LSU's odds are twice as high as Bama's. I mean, plus 800 to Bama's plus 390. I just don't get that number. If I were making, and if somebody would ask me, and I'm usually pretty good at this, but if somebody were asking me, I would have probably put LSU somewhere to win the SEC at like plus 550, plus 600.
Yeah, I don't understand the Bama love. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't bet LSU at plus 800.
You don't think there's value there?
No, I don't. I don't think they can win the SEC.
You like Texas that much, or is just?
I like Georgia.
Like Georgia.
I like Georgia or Texas. Yeah, I don't think LSU would beat either one of those teams.
Yeah. Well, we won't find out because LSU doesn't play either one of those teams unless they meet in the SEC championship game.
I think LSU can make the SEC title. I think they've got a navigatable schedule, albeit tough. They have to beat Bama, which they've struggled to do.
I think Bama's a little. You don't think? I know they have a lot of returners. I think they have like something like 15 returners back, which is obviously fantastic for Kellen DeBoer. But I'm not so sure about Bama this year. I don't know.
Neither am I. I really, I'll tell you the bet that I do like. I like Georgia to win the title. I think they're worth taking a flyer on. They're like plus 950.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's been 2 years since Kirby Smart's won a title. So,
okay.
I think just for once you get into the big dance, coaching really matters. And I think Kirby Smart is still the best coach in the country. So I think right now, if you can get them at plus 950, that's a value to make the 12 team. I will tell you that my two favorite, since we're on the topic of futures, my two favorite futures for the Heisman Trophy. I love Cade Klubnik. That's my favorite Heisman bet. And then DJ Lagway as well. I think he's worth a flyer. But if I'm making a main one, it's Cade Klubnik for sure.
You'll see him early. That's for sure.
And the reason being, if I don't think there's a quarterback in the country who took a bigger step from year one as a full-time starter, year two as a full-time starter to than Cade Klubnik. He went from a 19-9 touchdown to interception ratio to 36-6.
Yeah.
So and his yards went up.
That answers that
answers. Those are my two tickets so far. I've bet on Cade Klubnik and DJ Lagway. And then not only that, with Cade Klubnik, consistency is key. He's returning all three of his top receivers this year. So,
final thoughts on this Friday before we head off to the weekend.
Final thoughts: if you want a Bolitnikoff pick, Antonio Williams from Clemson. I'm really high on Clemson this year.
By the way, the Bolitnikoff award is for the top wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on the opening game against LSU. That one I'm largely going to try and stay away from because my mind tells me to bet Clemson, my heart tells me to bet LSU, and I just don't like picking games like that. But
I think that I don't know if it worries me or the fact that they have Brian Kelly's putting so much pressure on himself and that team to win that game, and I don't know that as he should, but I don't know that. I think Clemson's going to be a little bit more. I don't want to say carefree. It means you don't care. I mean, I don't mean that they're not going to care.
I know what you mean. But a little more loose.
Clemson has much less to lose. I mean, if they lose that game, it's not that big of. It's like Mike said. I mean, they're in the ACC. They're probably still going to win 11 games anyway. I mean, and not in my opinion. Even if they lose to LSU, they're going to run the table in the SEC. I mean, the ACC. I just don't see anyone in the ACC. I mean, they could lose, but any team can lose on any given day. You have upsets all the time. But I just think that they have a really good chance to make a run. So there's a lot less pressure on Clemson to win that first game. Mm-hmm. And I think that has plagued LSU in week one throughout the Brian Kelly era. And I think you're better off with pressure on you at the end of the season, not at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I'll leave you with this as my true final thought. I saw Charles mention Nuss in the Heisman race. I would not bet on Garrett Nussmeier to win a Heisman with your money. Not only do I not see value there, I haven't seen Garrett Nussmeier perform under pressure but a handful of times.
Well, you and I feel differently about Garrett Nussmeier. I feel much more positively about him. However, that being said, I'm complete agreement. There is no value on betting on
No,
Garrett
there's no
Nussmeier
value.
to win the Heisman
I just
whatsoever.
I think he's a very good quarterback. I just think in those big moments, he hasn't shown up. I mean, if to look at the A&M second half, he completely melted down against Alabama. Wasn't good. I mean, in all of the big games, essentially, he's got the talent. He can make those throws.
I think it's more of a consistency thing, though. I mean, and look,
it absolutely is.
In no way, shape, or form am I comparing him to Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow, his junior year, he went through a whole long stretch of being inconsistent. I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he starting for LSU? And then in that last game, in that bowl game, like, oh, damn, he got hit, and then he was a different Joe Burrow, and then you couldn't stop him. So I'm not saying Garrett Nussmeier is going to do that, but I also think that when there's a lack of experience, it just takes, even Jane Daniels, he was really good his junior year, but he was so much better his senior year. And I just think that year of experience is really going to help him. He's going to be a
and I think it might. I just need to see, and I need to see better play calling from Joe Sloan too.
Yeah,
I
definitely agree with that.
His play calling was.
They have got to let him be free a little bit. And look, he's got to be more mobile. He's got to run. He didn't throw a lot, but he's got to run more than he did.
Who, Nussmeier?
Nussmeier, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And the running game needs to be better. They need to scheme more friendly.
100%.
More friendly schemes with the running game. But put it this way, if Nussmeier does not succeed with the talent around him now, it's going to be a monumental failure.
Yeah, no. I don't disagree with that at all. Look, Brian Kelly is not on the hot seat yet.
Make the playoffs.
They've got to make the playoffs. I agree. I don't necessarily think he'll get fired if they don't make the playoffs because there's so much invested in him. However, the heat will be turned up to 10, and they'll be going ballistic if he doesn't make the playoffs this year. So that means they got to make it. So we'll see if they do or not. But anyway, long time before then, we'll be talking a lot of college football going down because it's not just going to be NFL over the course of the next month and a half as we get ready for the season. I mean, week 0 is only 5 weeks away? 5 or 6 weeks. I don't know. My math.
Like that.
Whatever. It's coming up soon. And we will see you on Monday, sir.
Sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everyone. He's back. All right, a couple of things here. Another great show. Thank you, Gerard Semino. Appreciate it. Charles Mangus, always the best show. I appreciate you. Ryan, you're right. Schedule definitely matters. Texas had one of the easiest in the SEC last season. And David, also right. Now you know. I think it shows there's a lack of faith in Brian Kelly. I don't necessarily have, and I know I'm probably in the minority. There's a lot of people. Look, they lose that game to Clemson. I don't want to be the one answering the phones on WWL and whatever the Baton Rouge station, I can't remember, that has LSU on it, but they're going to be going off the chains. I wouldn't want to be Jimmy Ott talking about LSU if they lose that game to Clemson because we'll talk about it here, but I'm not going to get as much of the Brian Kelly wrath as they're going to get on those stations. Now, they're not going to give them as much credit if they win. They're supposed to win, blah, 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 but man, I think Brian Kelly's a really good coach. I think he had a lot to change here in Baton Rouge. I think as much as I love Coach O, it's just, man, they had so much to change. And I think that Brian Kelly got this team back on track, got this program back to where they needed to be. But if he doesn't win this year, there's no question there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. And we'll finish with this. Saints, last chance to get any comments in here this morning. My friend Sav, what's going on? Good watch today. Cubs need a third baseman. Yes, they do. They could use another starting pitcher. Just saying. I like Matt Shaw, but he's a great defensive third baseman, but he really not the prototypical third baseman. I like to see that. Again, the Major League Baseball second half starts today. Isaac Paredes is a damn good third baseman. I know. The Cubs had him. Piss off. We'll finish with this. In case you know, NFC odds, South odds, we've kind of briefly touched on them with Mike Detillier. Man, what does that say? How they have changed so much in the course of a year, and think to 2 years ago how much they have changed. Crazy. Bucks minus 105, Falcons plus 240, Panthers plus 370, and the Saints are plus 1,400. We got some fans, some Hoodats putting a couple bucks on the New Orleans Saints. And you know what? I'm not telling you not to. If you want to put a couple bucks on your favorite team to win, look, I did it before I knew it was going to happen. And so I've already got some bucks there. If I could take it back, I would, but I ain't cashing it out because you don't get any money to cash it out. Just saying. Anyway. Next show is Monday. Again, Jeff Duncan coming on the show. You thought today's show was good? Well, it was great. But Monday's going to be at least just as good. People love it. We get Mike Detillier and we got Jeff Duncan. We got him back to back. We wanted to get Dunk on before camp started and he gets wrapped up and all that stuff. And look, we're starting to get ready for the season. We got one more show before the start of training camp on Tuesday. What's up with Tyler Shuck? He's still unsigned. Second round pick's not signed. Is it a big deal? I don't know. Earl says he put 20 on it. Why not? Why not? I mean, it's $20, whatever. You do. Donate it to charity. Charity don't want your $20. Yikes. Ryan O'Shea says 100% agrees on Kelly. He was brought in to clean up O's mess. He's done that. But if he doesn't take him to the next step, what does it take? I don't know. We're definitely going to get into more of that as we go along. As the calendar flips over to August, those are the things that we're going to be talking about. I mean, the good thing is we don't have to keep talking about the same things over and over again. I mean, kind of, sort of, but we'll have more things to discuss. As camp starts and as practices begin, we'll have more things to discuss. I am looking forward to getting into real football. Even though I don't get a lot of sleep anymore, we still love it. And we love you here at Dattitude. But for today, for this show, that is going to wrap it up. It is time for us to start our weekend. That is it for us on this Friday. I want to thank today's guest, Mike Detillier, Gabe Henderson, and of course you. You are always our guest, but you're not just our guest, you're our family. We hope the family can come back on Monday again when we welcome in Jeff Duncan. We're going to talk mostly about Saints here. And a reminder, one last reminder, you see it on the screen, to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live again every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Our next show, Monday, July 21st, followed by shows on Wednesday and Friday. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. You can also find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.NOLA.com. You can find our Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints. You can find Gabe, sportsbookreview.com. I want everyone to have a wonderful, glorious weekend. I'll let you know how the Geezer retreat goes. We will see everybody on Monday. Charles Mangus can't wait for football and wants everyone to have a great weekend, as do I. Make it wonderful. Make it glorious. We will see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.